you have to understand where you're going or you won't be able to get there, right? Like, it doesn't matter what path you take unless you know where you're going. Like, you could end up anywhere. So wholesaling might not be the vehicle that's going to get you where you want to go, right? So you have to know.
Hey everyone, I'm Burton and welcome to PropStream Pros, the podcast where we dive into the lives of real estate professionals who've made it. In each episode, we'll explore how they got started, challenges they faced, and the strategies that helped them succeed, so that you can learn from their journey and apply those insights to your own path. Whether you're just getting started or already building a portfolio, there's something here for everyone. So make sure to subscribe, follow, and join us as we talk to professionals who've made their own success.
On this episode of PropStream Pros, Burton sits down with Nathan Payne to discuss the strategies behind his real estate investing success. From creative deal making to consistent lead generation, Nathan shares the habits that drive real results.
Today, I'm really excited for this conversation because we're going to be sitting down with Nathan Payne. Nathan's been investing in real estate across multiple U.S. markets since 2018. And what's really cool about his story is that this probably isn't where the younger version of him thought he'd end up. He went from door-to-door sales, trying to figure out his next move, to building a business that allows him to do deals virtually, create systems that actually work, and help other people do the same. But what I appreciate most about Nathan is that this conversation isn't about wholesaling or even about making money. It's about what happens when you start asking bigger questions, like why you're doing the work. So today, we're going to talk about real estate, virtual wholesaling, mindset, purpose, and the lessons Nathan has learned along the way. Mr. Nathan Payne, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, I'm good.
Well, let's start here. I'm curious. If you weren't doing real estate today, what do you think you would be doing?
Man, I'd probably be teaching. I really like that aspect of it. Teaching high school, middle school, maybe elementary. Teaching is a passion of mine.
I love that. What about, what topic do you think you would have taught if you did take that route?
Oh, that's a good question. What I really enjoy is leadership, goal planning, priorities, dealing with those certain aspects of business. I don't know. They don't really have that too much in school, but I would try to integrate that into whatever I taught.
I think that's a very important trait and things to teach the young audience, the next generation. And
yeah.
I believe they do. I remember back in high school, we used to have career programs.
There you go.
I think that would have been a perfect fit for you there. But obviously, that's not the route you took. You're not a teacher, although you are a coach, a mentor to others. But what you are doing today is real estate investing. And again, you've been doing that since 2018. Is that correct?
Yeah. Been doing it since then and haven't looked back.
That's amazing. Well, if you don't mind me asking, real estate investing is a pretty general word. It can mean a lot, as there's many different strategies out there. What strategies do you specialize in when it comes to real estate investing?
I would say specifically wholesaling. That's what I've been doing since 2018, consistently. But I've dabbled in it all, right? Like fix and flip rentals, subject to creative financing, but mainly wholesaling.
I love that. You're like a Swiss Army knife when it comes to real estate strategies. But I like that you focus primarily on wholesaling. And obviously in the intro, I mentioned that you're in multiple markets, which is, in my opinion, insane. Because typically, when you think about investing, you're thinking about investing somewhere local, somewhere within your market, somewhere you're familiar with. But that's not the case with you. Is that correct?
No, thank goodness for data. I mean, PropStream, you guys know all about the data. With the data, you can really invest or do a deal anywhere. It's pretty simple.
That's actually an interesting comment to say. Do you think, if it wasn't for the data that you have access to, that you would actually be doing the wholesaling in multiple markets?
No, not at all. That's the only thing that really makes it possible, is being able to access who's buying, where, what are reliable comps, or what's reliable information to know whether you're buying a good deal or wholesaling a good deal. Yeah, it wouldn't be possible.
Oh, okay. So that all makes sense. So that's probably what you're using PropStream for, is when a deal lands on the table, you're able to apply that address and get key information, sell information for that local market. Is that essentially how you're approaching our application?
Yeah. So not only can you look at the data, but we use the data to find buyers. We use the data just to know if the market is yields buyers, if it's actually even has is worth even investing in or looking into. So the data really helps with all aspects of it, not just, one aspect. It's like, should I spend my time in there? Because we have to work with a lot of clients and they have different markets they want to go in. So we have to look at the data and be like, hey, is there even flippers in that area to wholesale deals too? Is there activity there?
You know what? I want to press on that because I think that's a very important thing that you just mentioned, and not just important when you're diving into a new market, but I think it's also important because people tend to use that as an excuse not to get started in their real estate journey, right? Sometimes, for example, I'm in Los Angeles County, Orange County, right on that border. And most of the reasons I hear in my market, the things I observe in my market as to why people don't get into real estate in this market, it's one of the most expensive markets in the United States. You're talking about a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom property on the market for $1.3, $1.4 million. But with, in this case, wholesaling in multiple markets, correct me if I'm wrong, it's coined virtual wholesaling. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people refer to.
So when it comes to virtual wholesaling, I don't have to. I mean, that problem doesn't necessarily have to exist anymore because I could say, while living in Orange County or LA County, I could say, well, let me invest in a different market. Is that correct with virtual wholesaling?
That's exactly right. And the thing that's awesome about wholesaling too is, like, even if you are in Orange County in the expensive market, like, you're not technically buying the property, right? You're just assigning your interest to buy it. So that shouldn't really be an excuse for Orange County to a lot of people, because it's like, well, you don't have to come up with the funds. You're assigning it to an investor that's going to buy it. So either way, like, whether you want to be in your own market or virtual, there's pros and cons to every market, right? Like, Orange County, expensive, right? So there's probably a lot of big players. There's a lot of competition in the sense, like, of who you're going against. So if you bounce to a different market, it might, like Birmingham, Alabama, or something like where it's a lower price point, you would have to do more deals. Competition might be a little bit less, or the sophistication of sellers might be a little bit less. Not talking down on Birmingham. I'm just saying, like, in lower areas where, I guess, lower price point areas, there's going to be probably a little bit more distressed homes. They're not going to be as nice as Orange County. There's probably less distressed properties in the sense of, like, rundown areas. So what I'm saying is you'll have to do more deals in Alabama to make as much money as you would on doing one deal in Orange County, because the spreads are so big and the price point's so high. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and I love that. And for those that are just tuning in, I love that you mentioned that, because yes, regardless of what option you choose, staying in the market that you're in that might be, in your mind, expensive, or a market that might be of a lower value, work still needs to be done.
Yeah.
So it depends on whether you do work here or do work there. So for those that are just tuning in, you mentioned not having to apply any money. There are some listeners that may not understand the process of wholesaling. Briefly, if you don't mind explaining to our audience, what does wholesaling look like as a real estate investor?
So wholesaling is really simple, right? The idea behind it is very simple. It's find a property at a discount, right? Get it under contract, and then assign your rights to purchase that property to someone else for a fee. So if someone has a house that's worth $300,000 and you get it and agree to buy that person's house for $200,000, but you know John, the investor, who would pay $250 for it, or $220, you would just assign your rights. You bought it at $200, you'd assign it to him for $220, $250. You'd make $20,000 to $50,000 assignment fee at close without ever having to buy the house. You've just agreed with the seller to buy their house, and you're assigning your rights to someone else that will buy it and pay you the difference.
And I like that, because if the house is still worth $300,000, then that buyer, even though they acquired it from you for $220, $250, there's still equity or profit on that back end. Love that. Thanks for explaining the process of wholesaling.
Exactly.
And so virtual wholesaling is just doing that in a different market, correct?
That's it.
A market
Yeah, so
that you're not in.
Exactly. So I live in Canada. I used to live in Utah, and I did most of my deals in Salt Lake City, Utah. Right now I live in Canada, in Toronto, like north of Toronto in Ontario, and I do all my deals without having to ever go see a house, talk to sellers through Zoom or just on the phone, talk to title companies on the phone, like never having to leave my office, right? Like I'm here sitting in my office right now. That's the great part about it. That's why I was able to move to Canada, is because I could just do exactly what I was doing in Utah here.
the wonderful power of like internet and having a phone. That's crazy. That's insane that you're able to relocate your family perhaps to a whole different country and then still do deals through the devices that we have in front of us, and
it's amazing.
And live that life that you have today. Yeah, it's truly amazing. Let's talk about virtual wholesaling, and let's kind of expand on what you said a few moments ago about, whether it's going to be Orange County or Birmingham, Alabama, the work needs to be implemented. And I like how you painted that, because you're right. Like, while there might not be a lot of people looking to sell a distressed property in Orange County, California, the moment you do acquire one and fulfill the process of helping that homeowner, the assignment fee, that profit is much larger than if you were to do, let's say, 4 or 5 deals in Birmingham. So I like that you painted that picture, because a lot of people, again, in my observation, I'll hear people say, well, my market's too expensive. I'm looking for a more affordable market. But they don't realize that, okay, well, if you are going to go into a more affordable market, remember your expenses, your life, your habits are in an expensive market. So if you are going to virtually wholesale elsewhere, you might have to do a little bit more just to live or keep up with that lifestyle that you're in that expensive market.
You nailed it. Yeah, exactly right. So, like, we did a deal in Utah, higher price point too, right? I think the medium house, price point of the house is like $500,000, right? In Utah, or maybe a little bit higher now. But so, like, we did a house that was worth $850,000, right? And we found a buyer we got the house so house was worth about $850,000 after repair value, right? Like after it's been updated. We were able to get it under contract for $650,000. Right, so that you can see with the high price point, there's bigger spreads, right? There's more room, and we assigned it to someone for like $725,000, so we made about $85,000. It was actually $86,000. Now, for someone to do $86,000 in a lower price point market like St. Louis, like Birmingham, like any of these lower price point areas, they would have to do maybe 6, 7, or 8 deals to do an $86,000 assignment fee. So it really just depends. Now, the amount of work that has to be done to get the $86,000 fee or the $5,000 fee, it might be just as much work to eventually get that big deal, because they're harder to find. But it's just like, pick your poison, right? Like, you got to work either way. Are you willing to work hard and not see results but get an $86,000 deal, or are you willing to work hard and get little nuggets here and there? It's really up to what you're able to sustain and do in how your mindset is. Like, can you keep going without getting results, pretty much?
And that's a very true statement. I think that applies to practically a lot of things in life. So thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Thanks for being transparent and sharing that thing that you guys have to deal with. And I could see why now you're in multiple markets, because markets have different values here and there. So when it comes to going into a new market, because again, it sounds like you're in multiple markets, so I would like to get your expertise on this. For someone who's listening, who's looking to get into a new market, what are some best practices that you and your team, your company applies prior to deciding that this is a market you're going to be putting your marketing funding into?
One of the most important things we look at is there buyer activity? Are there people flipping houses there? Because if you go to an area where it's really easy to get deals but no one's buying, then it's not a good area, right? Like, if there's no flipper activity, then that probably means that there's just not a lot of people moving in the area. There's not a lot of movement. So it's buyer activity, especially when you're wholesaling, right? If you're looking to buy homes for yourself and you don't really care about selling it, you want to keep it as a rental, that's a different model. But when it comes to wholesaling, you need buyer activity. That's
a very, very good advice there. Okay, well, let me throw this question out your way, because obviously when you're thinking virtual wholesaling, you're not there at all. One of the key differences of wholesaling in your backyard versus virtual wholesaling is being able to actually see the property firsthand, physically be there, and do your due diligence. You don't get that luxury when it comes to virtual wholesaling. So how do you compensate for that?
Well, I'm pretty transparent with the seller and telling them what we're doing. I tell them that I don't live in the area, right? We're not there. We're real estate investors that invest nationwide, and we are going to have to go and take a look at the property either after we sign or before, right? And then I use buyers to go see it, because they're the ones that are actually buying it. I'm not. So they know that. They know that I'm not going to be like the final say in this.
I like that. It's almost like so you get the contract, and again, you're leveraging the buyers that are already there who are looking for good deals for assets. You're telling them, hey, I might have a deal. Go check it out, and then we can have a conversation after you decide what you like or what you don't like, right?
And again, we'll get into the pre-flip method and explain what that is a little bit more, but we're able to do this whether or not it's under contract. We don't really care. We care about the situation of the seller and if the seller is motivated. If there's motivation, but they're not ready to sign yet, but we know they're going to sell eventually to an investor, we'll go and send buyers through before we even have it under contract because we know that the process is probably inevitable, right? And we, instead of wait and like lock it up and then find a buyer, which most traditional wholesaling is, we'll just say, hey, you know what? We're going to send some of the buyers that we wholesale with and we fix and flip with over there right now, and we're going to kind of see where we need to be on our offer.
I love that. Okay, so let's just dive right into that because I've never heard of that term before. You said the pre-flip. Is this like a strategy that you implement in your business, and what is it?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of how this is applied, like through a real deal. So we're talking. So we did a $35,000 assignment fee on a deal in Utah, and what happened was this guy was in pre-foreclosure, and he needed to sell his house fast, but he was talking about to about 10 or 12 different wholesalers, right? There's a lot of competition involved in the deal, and he told everybody, "I'm looking for highest and best, so I'm going to look at all the offers and pick," right? That's basically the scenario they're in. And a lot of wholesalers find themselves in this situation, right? Where they're just like, okay, well, let me just make an offer. I don't have a buyer yet, but because they're doing the traditional way of wholesaling, let me just make an offer, hope I win it, and then hopefully I can find a buyer. And when you're dealing, when you're dealing with someone in pre-foreclosure, where if you tell them you can buy their house and you beat out all the other bids, but you can't find someone, you put that guy potentially in a position where he's going to lose his house. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to bid against a bunch of other wholesalers who don't really know what people are going to pay for. So instead of me just giving out my almost like a fake offer, hoping that he picks it against all these other fake offers, I'll just say, hey, look, obviously you're sitting there and looking at a bunch of offers that are coming in. Let me just go ahead and look at it right now. I'll call a couple of the close buyers that I know, or I'll use data to find good buyers that I can pre-flip it to, whether I have a relationship with them or not. I explain the situation, and then they go and see it. They let me know where they need to be. I call the seller, and I say, hey, this is where we need to be. And the reason why that's so much more effective than making a traditional wholesaling offer is traditional wholesalers usually have due diligence periods. They need 7 to 14 days to find a buyer. They usually give like $100 to $1,000 of earnest money. They're not putting non-refundable earnest money down because they want to be able to back out. So when I pre-flip it, I'm able to get a legit offer, and we come in aggressive with 0 days of due diligence and $50,000 of non-refundable earnest money. So whether our offer is higher or lower, it blows everybody else out of the water because it's like, this is a real offer. It's not refundable money.
You're literally coming in there with a blank check.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Crazy.
So in this deal, we won because the guy's in pre-foreclosure. He's going to lose his house. He can't gamble on someone that says they can do a higher offer with a 14-day non-refundable earnest money deposit. Like, he's not going to gamble with that. So we actually didn't have the highest offer, but we won it because of the how solid the offer was, right? So that's what the pre-flip method does, and we do this a lot because the way that marketing is these days, like a lot of sellers are talking to multiple wholesalers, and if you're playing the same game as everybody else and just making offers with the same due diligence deadline, like of 7 to 14, 30 days, you're going to lose. You're going to lose all the time. And if you don't lose, but you lock it up and you can't find someone, you've put that seller in a bad situation. So I prefer doing it like that.
Nathan, you dropped some very valuable gems. I absolutely love that. And, again, for the way I look at it, again, this is just from outside in, I think what you've done is genius because, like you said, this homeowner could be talking to 15, 20 investors out there that are looking to make an offer. But not only are you making an offer, but you're actually coming in there with the bank, in this case, the buyer. And not only are you making an offer, but it's like, we're ready to sign the check right now.
We're good. We're good to close.
So you're not only, to me, it's like you're cutting multiple steps out of the equation. One, you're cutting the whole, well, we got to first lock it up. Yes, that's important. But I think you leveraged your strategy in that moment, because yes, you still have to lock up the contract, but the difference between you and those other 20 wholesalers is that you come in there with the buyer already in hand, right? So you're coming in there, I have a buyer, if this is a good price for everyone, we'll sign the contract. And then second, the due diligence process. I think that's smart, because yes, after most wholesalers lock up the contract, they have to then find the buyer and then get into the property and then do the walkthrough and all that. But with your strategy, you're literally doing all of that in one sweep.
Yeah. And we're just transparent about what we're doing. Like, I think wholesaling can be taught unethically. I think it can be taught shady. I think a lot of people have a problem with the way it's done, but they just think that's just the way to do it. And I had a problem with it too. I was like, I'm telling someone I'm going to buy their house when I have no idea, because I'm not buying it. So I started telling sellers, hey, that price that you want doesn't work for me, but I have a couple investors that it might work with that I wholesale to. Let me go run and buy them. Let's see where we need to be. And then I make the offer as myself, because I still need to assign it, right? So I make the offer, hey, this is my offer. I get it where I need to be, where I know the buyers will need it, and then I assign it. So it's not like I'm brokering the deal and connecting the seller to the buyer. That's what they call like a brokering without a license. This is just being transparent with what I'm doing in the process, and then assigning it to the buyer eventually.
I love that. Great strategy there. Let me ask you this, and this is more of a kind of a question that I've always asked myself when I look at investors that are out there doing their deal. At what point do you stop, right? Like, do you just keep doing this until you become like a trillionaire? Do you do this until you're like, okay, I'm tired of doing this? Like, from your perspective, like when does Nathan finally hang it all up, if you don't mind? Or what is Nathan doing this all for?
That's a good question. Yeah, so I started doing this specifically to create the lifestyle that I wanted for my family, right? That was get debt-free and be able to provide for my family whether I could work or not. That was the goal. Right? And I think every individual has their own idea of when they need to stop. My idea of stopping was, I need something to do during the day, right? So that's like why I work, is because I think work is an eternal principle. I think it is good for man. I think it's good for people to work, to be trying to accomplish something bigger than themselves daily. I think if people retire after working, they usually go down, like they don't feel as good as they used to. I think you need something to work towards, whether it's at work or not, right? So for me, I've come to a point where I've reached where I want to be, and I'm working because I'm looking to help others achieve their goals, right? And but it depends. It's different for everybody. My goal was never trillion, billion. Like I don't really care about money, and that I used to, but my wife has basically over the years gotten that out of my head, that money is important. Like it used to be really important. Like, oh, I need to make more money. I need to make more. I would sit with my brother-in-law and my brothers-in-law and people, and we would always talk about how much money do we really need to make in order to live comfortably. Like, how much? Like, just money. And after a while, I'm just like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, and my wife, again, because she does not care about money, she's helped me to realize that it should not be the goal.
I love that. Yeah, because, that's something I've always considered, like, when do you stop, right? And I think that's important. I mean, it sounds like at first you didn't have a goal or a why in place. So let me ask you this. Now that you have that why, how important do you think it is for someone who's just getting into this business, or maybe has been doing it for a while, who doesn't have a why? How important do you think it is for them to establish a why?
Oh, it's everything. You have to understand where you're going, or you won't be able to get there, right? Like, it doesn't matter what path you take unless you know where you're going. Like, you could end up anywhere. So wholesaling might not be the vehicle that's going to get you where you want to go. right? So you have to know. For me, it got me to where I wanted to go, but it's not the end all be all. Like it's not, I don't see myself doing this in the next 40 years, like 40 years down the line, I'll probably be doing something else. But yeah, you have to know your why and your mission and your vision in life, or it doesn't really matter what you do.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Well, let me kind of time travel a little bit with you. You know, I mean, everything you've shared, you seem like a very dialed in individual, you know, and when I'm thinking virtual wholesaling in multiple markets, you know, I'm here thinking of like your operation is like this one big octopus, just has its hands in everything. And that takes a lot. I mean, you got to focus, you got systems, you got processes that you've created. So I'm kind of curious, have you always been that? Like if you were to kind of summarize yourself as a child, were you always this person, or were you completely different as a kid?
Oh man, no, I was all over the place as a kid. So I grew up and man, it was really hard for me to stay focused on doing anything, accomplishing a task. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was like in second grade. And I was just all over the place. Yeah, I was all over the place. And teachers, like I wasn't listening. The teachers like would tell my parents, they'd be like, oh, this kid just interrupt. You know, the active kid that wants to just run around, but they stick him in a chair for 6 hours a day. Like it's not going to work. And honestly, I think, you know, it's tough. Like a lot of people think kids have ADHD when they don't. I mean, I did, but it's just like the school system and making little kids sit down for so long. That's tough. And I get it because my little baby girl just wants to run and play all day, you know. But no, I wasn't like that, and yeah, not at all.
Okay, yeah, well, that's crazy because like when you think about it, like not being able to focus is completely opposite of what you got to do in this business. Because in this business, you're talking to homeowners who are going through a lot, so you definitely want to make sure you're paying attention to all the details, all their pain points. That way, when it comes to providing a solution, you're hitting all the check marks
exactly
in regards to their thing. So to just hear that, you know, again, who you were in your early years versus who you are today, huge day and night difference there. Was there a pivotal moment in your lifetime as a child or as a young adult that you probably learned a very valuable lesson? Like I'm a firm believer that a lot of us, everyone listening, you and myself, we've gone through the ringer kind of bit in life. We made it. Here we are today. But that during that moment, we learned something valuable, whether we realize it or not. Was there a pivotal moment for you as a young adult or as a child that you can recollect that may have been important in the long run to you?
Man, you know what's interesting is like I love to self-reflect. Like in self-awareness, I think is a key trait to like becoming an entrepreneur, like effective leader, like being aware of what's going on in your life. Because a lot of us, like as a child, I would just go through life, right? I would just be like, my motto used to be go with the flow. Like, hey, whatever happens, let's just go have fun. We'll figure it out. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that self-reflection, acknowledging what you're doing, mistakes, repentance is another word, like for changing what you're doing and course correcting, doing what's right. Like that is key. And I've really like over the last probably 7 to 8 years, I've gotten really good at reflecting on like what I've done that day. I journal. I have a gratitude journal. And I write down, I've kept it every day for the last 8 years. And I write down what I'm grateful for, what I'm grateful for that will happen. Like I manifest like, okay, I'm grateful that this will happen, even though it hasn't. And that's just something that's really helped me recently, right? Like in my life, is just being aware. And actually, I've been keeping my own planner, and I actually came out with my own planner where at the end of every day of my planner, I asked myself a couple questions like, what did I do well today? What could I have delegated today? Like, what did I do that I didn't need to do? You know, how could I improve? What are you going to change? And I ask those questions to myself every day and I write them down. So that's huge, right? Like, is just being able to sit back and be like, what behaviors and or beliefs have I had that are wrong, and do I need to change in order to get the end result that I want? So I've done that daily, and that's been huge.
That's amazing. Well, if you don't want me asking, clearly at one point you weren't doing that. right?
No,
So
not at all.
since implementing that today in your lifestyle, in your business, like what huge benefits have you gotten out of that?
Everything's changed for me, like becoming a better father, becoming a better husband, becoming a better leader. Just everything, every aspect of my life has changed because I'm more aware of what I'm doing right and wrong, and I can reflect. And honestly, like being married is huge. Like if anyone has a wife, they'll know that your wife is there to help you course correct and be self-aware too. Like there's things that I didn't know I was doing all the time that now that I've been married, like, okay, that's something I need to work on. My wife will tell me, like, if I'm out of step or out of line, my wife's going to let me know, right? So that's like something that's really helped me and changed. I didn't used to do any of this, right? Like, I will say that what got me into these things was becoming an entrepreneur. Like in 2018, before that, I wasn't really thinking too much about that, even though I was kind of like an entrepreneur, but not as like in depth as getting into wholesaling. I needed to become, I believe, like the leader, and I needed to become like the best version of myself in order to make this business grow, right? Like it wasn't going to grow higher, better than I was as a person, in my opinion. So I really got deep into like, how can I be the best version of myself to build this company? And so that's why I got into it. So before 2018, not so much, but this business, really wholesaling, got me into like trying to be the best version of myself.
I love that. So it sounds like 2018 was a very pivotal moment for you in your life. If you don't mind kind of reliving 2018 with me a little bit here, just so I can get a better understanding of your story, were you in real estate in 2018 or were you doing something else in 2018?
2017, 2018 is when I had decided to get out of the job I was doing. I was doing door-to-door sales. I had been doing it all throughout college. I started doing Dish Network and Direct TV. That's what it was, Direct TV. And I was selling that door-to-door, satellite TV. I'd go and knock in people's house, like go to random neighborhoods and random areas throughout the United States and knock on people's door and just say, hey, I can get you a better deal. What kind of system do you have? Whatever. And I did that for a while. But after college, I was still doing it, got married, and I said, you know what, this is not something I see myself doing in the long run, like knocking on people's doors, running teams that do this. So I was like, I need to get into something that will pay me more money, that I can do locally, right? It's funny because locally was the thing, but with door-to-door, you have to, it's very transient lifestyle. Like you have to every summer go to a new area, work that area, come back home, because they don't want you working where you live, because then you probably won't work. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why I got in. I needed to find a different career path because door-to-door wasn't something that I wanted to do long term, and I thought real estate was the play.
Okay, well, how did you find out about real estate? Because going from door to door to like all of a sudden now I'm in real estate, that's an interesting change of field. So do you recall like what caught your attention when it came to real estate?
I do, yeah. So in college, one of my roommates named Corey Roysam, his dad was into wholesaling in Missouri. And Corey was trying to do wholesaling in college and lease options and doing those different things. And he'd always be like, hey, do this with me. And I'd say, no, I'm doing door to door. I'm crushing it. I'm doing well. How about you come and sell with me? And you know, I could see the success he was having doing it. Like he was successful somewhat, but as a college student, like he was having fun. So I didn't see like it being like a valid option at that time when I was doing well, doing what I was doing. So, but once I graduated and me and him stayed friends and we're still friends right now, I reached out to him and I said, hey man, I'm looking for something else to do other than door to door. Are you still doing that? Are you doing what your dad did? Like, are you wholesaling? And he said, no, I want to, but I'm working at tech sales. And I told him like, hey, you know what? I've interviewed at a couple jobs. I don't like the process of interviewing because at that point I had always worked for myself. Up until that point, I never really had a real job, like a 9 to 5. It was more of like running my own thing. So I said, hey, look, I've tried to get a job. I'm not really interested. He actually had me apply at the job he had to see if I could get it. But I was like, I'm not interested after applying. So I was like, let's just quit our jobs and let's go all in on this real estate thing. right? I didn't really even know what wholesaling was, but I was like, let's just go all in. We can figure it out. Like, we got this.
Yeah.
So he quit his job. I quit my job, and we went all in on this wholesaling thing.
The rest is history. Here we are.
Yeah.
Shout outs to Corey, man. That's awesome that you guys
That's how
have
I got
maintained
into it,
that
yeah,
friendship and he introduced you to the concept.
Yeah.
And, shout outs to you for, keeping him in your story and keeping him in the journey as
That's
well.
right.
So that's really
Yeah.
cool. That's really, really cool. Man, that's awesome. So thanks for kind of sharing your past a little bit. Like, I've
Yeah.
always wondered, obviously none of us are born into real estate. It's not like we wake up and all of a sudden we're doing wholesale deals or anything like that. And so I always like to kind of get to know who you were prior to getting into this industry. And yeah, your story is amazing. I mean, door to door. I assume that the door to door part also applies to the real estate stuff.
Oh,
I mean, you're when you were doing that, you must have been like nervous knocking on someone's door, what their reaction was going to be. So if you don't mind me asking, like what things did you learn from door to door that you believe applies into real estate investing today?
Oh man, door to door teaches you resilience. It teaches you being diligent, disciplined, and not stopping. So like, for example, I would just knock. I would just go every day. Like if I got a no, I'd be like, okay, no, on to the next. Boom. No eventually didn't really affect me, right? It wasn't a big deal. It's like, okay, well, let me find someone that has a problem that I can solve. So door to door teaches you that like your rejection is not a big deal. And not only door to door, I went on a mission for my church for 2 years when I was 19 to 21 years old. Same thing, right? You try to talk to people about Jesus Christ for 2 years, they're going to tell you to get lost, a lot of the time. So that taught me discipline as well. So all those things accumulate to when I got into real estate. It was like, hey, what I learned from those things is you just got to keep going. You're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to fail a lot, but that's just a part of the process. And then eventually I found out about mentorships and learning without having to fail so much, which helped a lot. But that's what I got from door to door. It was just, and door to door, I had some crazy experiences. I met some great people. That's what I loved about door to door. And my mission is you meet amazing people. You knock on someone's door, you don't know who they are. You don't know about their life or their experience, but they'll tell you. It can be dangerous. I had a gun pulled out on me in the middle of like a random city in Oklahoma, like in the middle of a random town. Yeah, this guy, I was knocking doors. It was late and just knocked on the door, and the guy has the gun. He opens the door, has a gun. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I'm just checking to see if I can upgrade your dish." I wasn't like, honestly, I wasn't even scared because I wasn't scared to get blasted or die because I was like, you're not going to shoot me. I'm just talking to you about your dish network. So anyway, you learn a lot.
And I will say, I love that because that's something like, that's kind of the goal as to like what PropStream Pros was designed for, is that one of my missions is to remind people that are listening that like you're going to go through things in life. You're going to experience ups and downs, but the things that you learn in those moments can be applied in the future, especially in real estate. And so just you telling me the story, it really, whether it's the air conditioner blasting behind me or maybe just the chills that I got after you saying what you're saying. But if for those that are listening, if you didn't pick up the in between, like Nathan had learned a lot during the door to door and being, resilient, and then going on that mission with your church, that probably instilled confidence and give clarity. And so just all these things that you went through in life, whether you realize it or not, Nathan, I truly believe you're applying it in your life and in your business and in your journey going forward as well. So with that said, I'm going to get to the last part of this segment or this episode. And this is one of my favorite segments, and it actually ties into what I just mentioned. But this part of the show is called the Pro Deal Breakdown. But rather than just talking about any transaction or a moment or a project that you're working on, there's a little twist to this part. I want to see if there's a transaction or a moment or perhaps a project or community that you might be building that ties into one of the pivotal moments that you experienced in life. and how that moment that you experience in life, you learn something from it and you're implementing it into one of the projects or transactions that you've done. Do you know of something that you're doing today or a transaction that you've done where one of the things that you've learned, maybe in 2018 that we talked about, that you implement in your business today?
Yeah, so it's such a good question because as I sit and reflect, I like to meditate. I like to think a lot about the past of what's happened, and there's so many full circle moments. There's so many things that like are happening now because I went through something earlier, right? Like it happens all the time. It can happen even in one day, right? You can be like, oh, this happened earlier. Now it's so for me, the thing that I'm thinking about most is when I got into wholesaling. I don't want anyone that's watching this to think like I've always been successful. No, my first year or two of wholesaling was you could say a disaster. Like it was a roller coaster ride where I'd made I made $96,000 in my first 6 months, and then I lost it all because I spent it on bad marketing, right? And then and paying myself and just stuff, right? Like money can go by quick. Had to do it again. Had to get on credit card debt and then get deals that way. And then I hired too many people and my just went down. So it's been like this, right? And I was always, I don't know if I grew up with this, but I had a scarcity mentality. That was one of the things that I was struggling with. I thought people were trying to were competition. I thought people were trying to take my deals. I did not trust a lot of people in the industry or want to share my insights or what I've learned or learned really that much from others because I was like, I'll figure it out myself. I was kind of had that mentality. But then I realized I got around a mentor. His name is Brandon Simmons. And he taught me about the go-giver. He taught me about the abundance mentality and how you can do more by helping people. And there's more out there than just what you're thinking, right? You think maybe there's only a couple deals you can squeeze out of your market. No, there's so many deals. There's so many opportunities. So having that abundance mentality and changing that is one of the game changers for me that I still apply today in my business. And that comes with, helping people who need help in this business, whether, they can join my program or not, giving them a little nug, helping them out. So that changing the mindset was one of the biggest game changers for me that I apply today. There is more. There's so much money out there. Yeah, there's so much money. There's so much opportunities. To think that you can't succeed or there's not enough is grossly wrong.
I love that. So one of the things that you learned in the past was just kind of just changing that mindset from scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. You also mentioned in that experience of yours or that learning of yours of just a few moments ago, a community. You have a community that you created. Is that correct?
Yeah. So one of my main goals in life, one of my missions, is to help people thrive, not only in real estate but also in their personal lives. That was a real main goal. But I knew in order for me to help people thrive in their personal lives, I would have to be successful at something before people really trusted my advice. Right. That's kind of and so that's been kind of my mission in being successful in real estate is hey, I can at least stand on something saying hey, I've done this. I have some good input and I can help you prioritize your life, or I can help you set goals. So that's kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to get into real estate is to help people and build that community, because I believe that again, community abundance can really help people succeed. Being alone, trying to do it all alone, that's not the move. It's not that useful either.
Man, I absolutely love this whole conversation and just kind of, like you said, there's a lot of full circle moments. Like earlier in the episode or in this episode, we talked about, if it wasn't for real estate, you probably would have seen yourself as a teacher. Right. And then throughout the episode, we talked about some ups and downs, some pivotal moments that you experienced. But fast forward, you're doing well in real estate, in my opinion. And then not only are you doing well, but you're paying it forward, right? Was it Brandon that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, Brandon Simmons,
your mentor? Yeah, get that abundance mindset, right? So you've now adapted that mindset. And then now you've created this community where you're helping others who are, struggling or maybe have hit a roadblock or maybe just starting their real estate journey learn. So I would argue, Nathan, I think you have become a teacher. So
Cool. Yeah.
there's that full circle. We don't even realize it, but
Yeah.
I love that. And you're able to not only teach, but I think you're teaching something that you truly have a passion for, and that's
Yeah.
helping not just homeowners, but others see that success that you've been fortunate to see yourself. That is amazing, man. I want to
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing that full circle moment of yours. What's the future look like for Nathan?
That's so interesting because I used to set goals like 1 year down the road, 5 years, 10 years, right? Like those goals. My goal, I don't really set goals like that anymore. I usually just live like day to day, trying to be intentional with how I use my time, intentional with my family. And my main mission and my main goal is to basically be the best version of myself. I'm faith-based, so like my very religious. I would say like religious. My religious goal is to be like Jesus Christ, right? So if you're not religious, you could just input. I'm just trying to be the best person I can be. So, what does the future look like? I don't know, and honestly, I don't really care what I'm doing for work. But if it's driving me to be the best person and love others, then I'll do it. So that's my answer.
I love that answer. While you may not know what tomorrow holds, that doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't be the best version of yourself right now. And I love that. Two last questions, and I'm going to give you the mic so you can say any last words or anything you'd like to say to our audience. But the second to last question I'd like to ask you is, what does financial freedom mean to you, Nathan?
Oh man, my definition of financial freedom is probably a lot different than most people. I'm financially free at the moment because my expenses are low. I'm debt free. I own my own house, own my cars, own everything. So it's like I'm financially free. Like, could I stop working today and never work again? It would probably be difficult, right? Like, it'd probably be difficult to keep going. But if I could eat rice and beans and be okay, you know. So like, I'm financially free. Like, being debt free and then being able to do what you want with your time. That's been the goal, and that's where I'm at. And I would say the only reason I'm there is because I don't desire material things. Like, I don't want expensive things. Like, if I wanted to like a Ferrari or something right now, yeah, I wouldn't be financially free because I'd be making those payments. But I don't care about those things. So I think when you think about what makes you financially free, you have to identify what you want in life. Like, if you want to live in like a mansion, well, yeah, you're going to have to work a lot harder, make more money to do those things. I don't live in a mansion. I live on like a little small farmhouse, you know, like in Canada. But that's what I wanted.
I love that. And thanks for sharing your definition of financially free. And I agree with you. Everyone's definition is going to be different. I've never heard of two people have the same answer when it comes to that. So thanks for sharing your answer of what you believe your financial freedom looks like or is going to be. The last question I'd like to ask you, Nathan, when it's all said and done, what do you want your friends and loved ones to remember you for?
I think it kind of comes back to like what my mission and my vision is. I want to be remembered as someone that made people feel loved and they cared for, and especially that I was present, like when I was with people, right? Because as someone that struggles with ADHD, I used to always, until I got better at it, until I got married, like I used to not really be present with people. I would have my phone out. I'd be somewhere else in my mind, right? I'd be somewhere else. But now I want people to remember me as like someone that they felt loved, that I was there, I was listening, I actually cared. That's what I want to be remembered for. Because unfortunately, I've been to a lot of funerals recently, and no one remembers the money, no one remembers the assets or the cars or what they did. They barely talk about what someone did for their job at funerals. They talk about the impact the person had and how that person made them feel. That's literally like all people talk about, like at funerals that I've been to. So that's what I care about. I want people to say it when I'm gone, just be like, oh, he made me feel, hopefully in a positive way.
Very well said, Nathan. And this last part, I'm going to give the spotlight and mic to you. Is there anything that you'd like to share or say to our audience members? Or it could be towards a loved one, it could be towards, anything. The mic is yours. Have at it.
Oh, man. So this might go against the grain, but a lot of people get into real estate because they want to make money. I get it. You want to get rich, right? That's what most people do. That's originally why I got into real estate, because I was like, I got to make as much money as possible. What is good? Real estate. But as I've gotten into this business and deeper into it, I think it's really important not to set money as your goal, because it doesn't really matter. What you should set as your goal is like what you really want to accomplish in life. What do you want to be remembered as? Like your true why, not money, because money is just a vehicle that helps you accomplish things. But what do you really want to do? And again, be remembered by. Like if you can get into wholesaling and, accomplish your goal, your end goal of like being around your family, time, like, yeah, that's good. It's a good business for that. But just really identify why you're doing this and, what you want in life. That's what I would say.
I love that. Well, Nathan, I have to thank you for giving us your time, not just me, but our audience members. Thanks for opening up and sharing your story, your successes, some of the things that you went through, some of the challenges in your past, and the things that you learned out of that. We can't thank you enough for everything you've done. You've been an amazing guest.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
Absolutely. And, we'll say just from this conversation, I learned a lot as well. For me, knowing my why, during that conversation, I was slightly thinking, do I even have my whys in place? And then two, the abundance mindset. There are times I personally catch myself thinking, having that scarcity mindset and then looking at people in a different light than they need to be looked at. And so thank you for sharing that, man.
Yeah, and one thing I'll add as well is social media. Be careful, everybody, with social media, because it makes it very difficult to not compare yourself. And comparison is the thief of joy, right? Like anyone that's listening to this could be like, oh man, Nate, he lives on a farm, like he doesn't have debt or whatever. Like if anyone cares about that, but don't compare yourself to me, because I'm 35. I've been working a long time. I have a lot of sales background. I've failed a lot. So social media is very destructive. It can be very destructive. It can be a blessing too. It can help people, but just be careful, everybody, that you're not caught comparing, because a lot of social media is not real, right? Especially with AI. Oh my gosh, it's very hard to determine and decipher what is real. So you really need to be comfortable with who you are. You have to, I would say, you have to be centered on something bigger than yourself, which would say God. But social media is tough. So be careful, everybody. I don't know. I just felt like I needed to say that. Be careful.
No, very well said. And that's a good way to end. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, comparison is the death of joy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest, Mr. Nathan Payne. Nathan, thank you again for giving us your time, and thank you for sharing everything that you've learned throughout your journey. We hope to have you in a future episode, kind of catch up where you're going to be at down the road. But until then, thank you so much, and thank you guys for listening to this episode of PropStream Pros.
Thanks for tuning in to the PropStream Pros podcast. Subscribe for weekly insights and real strategies to help you close more deals. See you next time.